The Batman Arkham games defined my childhood of video games. I remember seeing Arkham Asylum in some random UK gaming magazine and my mind just being blown at the screenshots and gameplay details. There's no doubt that Rocksteady's trilogy of Arkham games is a video game all-timer, and Arkham Origins took Rocksteady's foundations and put a fresh little spin on how they wanted to tell their story. I love all four Arkham games. The ending tonight put a good cap on the Arkham story, but still allowed it to have follow-up iterations if there was a desire to do so. In 2022, we got WB Montreal's Gotham Knights, which promised to be a Bat Family story set in a separate universe to the Arkhamverse. It failed as a Bat Family story, but it was a competent video game, at least to me, that I enjoyed and I think does have potential for a sequel should they choose that path. Meanwhile, Rocksteady haven't shipped a new mainline video game in 9 years. Can you believe it's been that long? In August 2020, Rocksteady finally unveiled Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League with a CG trailer that was met with a fairly positive reception. Established to be in the Arkhamverse and set in Metropolis, you will play as one of Harley Quinn, King Shark, Captain Boomerang, or Deadshot. Ever since then, we've had small little trickles of gameplay or information, and there's been generally less buzz and excitement from the audience about this game. But it wasn't until PlayStation Showcase earlier in 2023 where we got a deep dive into the games and its systems, where we truly got a feel for how this game would play and look. And, well, it was met with a lot of cynicism and, to be honest, quite a lot of hate. And I can see why. At a time where as many new live service games get announced, an equal amount are ending support and shutting down. And tie that to the fact that it was only a few years ago we got Marvel's Avengers that did not hit in the way many had hoped it would, despite the fact that, again, I had a pretty good time with it, but I can see why so many people didn't. That, alongside of showing that, well, it felt a little bit like shoot the giant purple weak spots and run around. People look at Rocksteady as the pioneers for creating a world-class superhero game. It's hard to imagine getting Spider-Man 2018 or Eidos Montreal's underrated Guardians of the Galaxy without the Arkhamverse first setting that standard. And I feel that's where the disappointment comes in. For many, they've gone from the standard setters to the industry chasers because of its loot, battle pass, and many live service elements. I've spoken pretty negatively on the game so far, but that's how I perceive the general audience's reaction to be right now. I share a different reaction, a sense of cautious optimism. The phrase being, it's Rocksteady and they don't miss. And whilst they still might, today I want to talk about why I'm still excited for Rocksteady Suicide Squad and why it can still be a hit. First of all, I am a huge DC fan, it has to be said, and the news of James Gunn taking over the DCU is the best we have had in a long time. But, if there is one thing Rocksteady know, it's how to do the DC universe. The Arkham games aren't just beloved because of their combat and stealth mechanics. They created 3 exquisite worlds to explore, with the Metroidvania elements and almost horror depiction of Arkham Asylum, the mysterious, moody and beaten up Arkham City, the rainy and neon lit Gotham in Arkham Knight. This is set 5 years after the events of Arkham Knight, and this time they're tackling Metropolis, and I mean, from what we've seen already, it looks stunning. If you look at the Arkham games, they nailed the designs and costumes of not just Batman, but his allies, his enemies, and I mean, some of the designs of the Justice League members look incredible here. This Metropolis is built on the idealization of Superman. Landmarks, art, and monuments that are all dedicated to him. Look, I get everyone is tired of evil Superman. Me too. But playing in this kind of DC world has so much potential, and if it's as dense with DC references, we as the fans will be satisfied. I truly believe that. And I fully believe that even if the live service elements of the games don't hit the high bar that they need to, it'll at least be a similar story to Marvel's Avengers where we get a really solid campaign. Arkham Knight, genuinely, if it was released today, would hold up so well. It still looks and plays outstandingly well, and to see them take the Arkhamverse forward, it really excites me. I mean, we already have confirmed Lex Luthor, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, The Penguin, Green Lantern, Amanda Waller, and of course, one last appearance of Kevin Conroy's Batman. May he rest in peace, he will be missed by all truly. It's a stacked DC cast. Obviously, you have a feel for where it may go, taking out the Justice League one by one before an eventual confrontation with Brainiac, and maybe it's not the Justice League game or even Superman game we all wanted, but I'm still extremely excited about the premise of playing that sort of story, and if Rocksteady's previous narratives are anything to go by, it'll be delightfully crafted. So, yeah, it's a live service video game, so let's tackle the live service aspect. I know you're probably already rolling your eyes at another superhero game going down the live service route. I get it, but there's a huge amount of potential here, especially when you drop the disappointment of this not being a Superman or Justice League game and accept that it's Suicide Squad. My assumption is the game is going to end by putting a stop to Brainiac, but this is Task Force X. By going live service, you have the opportunity to add in more anti-heroes or maybe even test the water on some gameplay systems for future games like adding in Bizarro for a potential future Superman game. Of course, it's a looter shooter, so that's unlikely but still possible. Then you factor in not just more heroes but it's Task Force X. Even after the Brainiac threat is dealt with, there can still be contracts, maybe taking down other big bads in the DC universe, new enemies to deal with, whether they come from out of space or fighting Vandal Savage. There's a lot of potential here for what they can add in going forward. That's why they keep trying these things. One thing I'll always be gutted about for Marvel's Avengers is they always teased Kree and Ultron storylines that they set up really well, but they never came to fruition. That's why they keep trying, because there is some special things that you can do with it going forward. I'm a huge Destiny 2 player. We're into the final expansion of a 10-year saga. Now imagine that for a DC or Marvel. There is possibilities there that could be really special. So, yeah, I get the battle pass fatigue, the loot skepticism, the frustration of live service, but if they crack it, and it is a big if, I really think Suicide Squad could be a big hit. It just depends on how that live service nature is expanded upon. Another thing is, this is about quote unquote killing the Justice League. One thing that Arkham games have always nailed outside of some bad Batmobile fights, and one awkward stealth encounter with the Arkham Knight, is its boss battles. The idea of fighting the Justice League is really fun to me and what they could potentially do with it. One thing I've always said as to why a Justice League game will be so hard to make compared to something like Avengers is that each Justice League member is so different from the other in terms of what they bring to the table. And I'm sure Rocksteady are going to dive deep into that for the boss mechanics. I imagine facing off against Batman will be some kind of stealth encounter, and we've got a small little look at what the Flash's combat encounter might be through the cutscenes. There could be a lot of variation in the mechanics of these boss battles and the visual design of them too. You imagine Superman to be the last member you face, and I'm really keen to see how that plays out. I think about the Mr. Freeze boss battle as one of the all-time greats in Arkham City, or the visual design of the encounters with Scarecrow in Arkham Asylum, as they're just so ahead of their times in terms of mechanics and set pieces. Not to mention, this is co-op. Whilst Gotham Knights didn't blow the world away, when I did get to do co-op around Gotham as Red Hood and Nightwing, it was still extremely fun. And the traversal here looks way cleaner, and the way each of the characters differ in traversal just looks really fun to play as. Something that Gotham Knights or Avengers never had. It always felt clunky. This looks seamless. It's also worth mentioning that to do these boss battles in co-op could either be a blessing or a curse for how they need to be designed. Speaking of co-op, will we get dungeons or raids, which never really worked out for Avengers, but when you look at this kind of aspect of shooters, they are some of the best content in Borderlands and Destiny, so we'll just have to wait and see. There are still points of skepticism for me. What we briefly saw in terms of loot just looked pretty generic. We got eyes on different weapon manufacturers that come with unique stats, but if you're going to do loot rarity and have legendaries or exotics, they need to feel that. Not just be the same as a rare assault rifle but give 10% bonus damage, for example. In looter games, your exotics / most prized loot has to feel distinct with its own identity. I don't expect it to rival that of a Destiny 2 exotic, with weapons having entirely new mechanics or their own lore as to why that weapon exists, but it needs to be something worth chasing and worth having. Otherwise, These live service games can fall flat on their head without that chase. A second is its monetization. We saw the battle pass, we saw some store cosmetics, which truthfully they look fun, but how expensive are these going to be? With the promise of all future heroes and content being free, will this be enough to fund the ongoing development in a game that is bound to have a lot of cost already due to its multiple delays and troubled production? Will it be fairly priced? Will there be any pay to win or pay to progress currencies? These are always fair questions that need addressing in any ongoing video game. Overall, I get the lukewarm reaction to the state of play gameplay we got earlier this year. I get it's not the game that people wanted from Rocksteady. But that doesn't mean that we can't be optimistic or excited about this game. The Arkhamverse holds some of my most treasured moments playing video games, whether it be the end of Arkham City, the Scarecrow encounter in Asylum, even in the odds in Night. I have faith that Rocksteady is going to deliver another brilliant tale in the Arkhamverse that is a tight story experience with an excellent DC narrative and a sandbox that will evolve and let you explore Metropolis with friends. Suicide Squad launches February 2nd on PS5, both Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Welcome to the Madhouse, Batman. If you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like, as it would really help me out and I'd appreciate it. Let me know how you're feeling about Suicide Squad in the comments down below. If you're looking to stay up to date on Suicide Squad and all DC games, then hit that subscribe button because I'm going to keep you covered. Have a terrific day, and I'll catch you in the next one.